Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we have a donation deck which is a Death Shadow / Stifle Naught deck, which is a bit of an interesting combination but makes quite a bit of sense in my view. So Death Shadow decks are normally ones that want to knock your opponent off balance for a couple of turns and then deploy a big threat and then win the game with that big threat. And the Stifle Naught decks are decks that want to put down a big threat and then protect it for a turn or two to win the game with it. So the two things kind of work quite nicely, and Stifle, which is like the other half of the Dreadnought package, tends to be pretty good in these tempo-y decks like we've got here, where we're trying to Wasteland people. So it's like additional copies of Wasteland in a lot of ways, so that's quite nice. Also, a lot of Death Shadow decks run Dress Down anyway, because it's very good with Death Shadow, because you take the abilities away from Death Shadow and it's a 1 mana 13/13. So you can drop the Dress Down, bash with a Shadow, and then play a Dreadnought or something. And that's going to be a pretty powerful sequence. So we're running cards that are pretty good, but also synergize with some of our other things. So Phyrexian Dreadnought is quite a high ceiling on that. It's just a big guy that comes down and smashes, but the floor is quite low because it doesn't do anything on its own, like Death Shadow. You need to get your life total alone off. And Phyrexian Dreadnought is an artifact, which makes it slightly easier to kill. It's also a 1-drop, like Death Shadow, so it dies for a lot of removal. So there's definitely an inherent weakness in our deck, but the things we are doing are quite powerful, so that should be quite interesting to see. We've got all the things you'd expect here. We've got Brainstorms, we've got Ponders, we've got Force of Wills, we've got Daze, and we've got Snuff Outs, Singleton Brazen Borrower to find to bounce stuff. We don't have room for him to Tourach because we have to run the Dress Downs here, and we don't have room for any fatal pushes because we're running Stifles again for the Dreadnought. So the main idea here is ignore some of the creatures and just go over them with bigger guys. That's pretty much it. Our mana base is pretty much as you'd expect. We've got 18 lands with 4 Wastelands. We've got some Watery Graves, a couple of Underground Seas. Pretty much a stock Death Shadow mana base. There's no reason to change it to accommodate Phyrexian Dreadnought. If we wanted to put someone like Urza's Saga in, we'd change the deck up a lot, and I don't think that's where we want to be. Alright, sideboard-wise, we've got a selection of tools, some of them more interesting than others. Hydroblast speaks for itself. Our deck's very cold to Blood Moon. Having something that can actually blow that up is quite useful. We do have a basic island that we can fetch as well in those situations. Test of Talents is an unusual one. Cannot target instant or sorcery spell, and then you extract it. So this is kind of good against Doomsday, so I'm curious to see how this pans out in that matchup. Also not so bad against things like Sneak and Show, where you can take out the Show and Tell. We've got another bounce spell. We've got some removal in the form of Fatal Push and Sheoldred's Edict. We have a Force of Negation to help shore up the combo matchup a little bit more. We've got some alternate threats. So we've got Dauthi Voidwalker, which is a threat, but also Graveyard Haze, so it kind of does a little bit of double duty. We have Tourach, which is a pro-white creature that can also disrupt their hand, which is quite useful in certain matchups, like the white control-y decks and Death and Taxes, stuff like that. This is going to be a useful card there. We've got a couple of Surge Extractions for a bit more Graveyard Hate. We have a Null Rod to say no to all the artifact decks in the format. Liliana the Last Hope is an interesting one. So this is going to be... we've got enough creatures that we should be able to hit off of this when we're milling around. And also, if we're milling into a Murktide and return the Murktide, we're also putting fuel in the graveyard for it. I'm not convinced this is necessarily where I want to be, but just saying having a card that you can bring in and just kill an elf every turn is nice. But it's probably just better as Plague Engineer for the most part. But we'll try it. It was in the list I've submitted, and it's a card that I like, even though I don't think it's necessarily that good. I like to play some interesting things, and this is one of them. And we have a Powder Keg. The reason for Powder Keg is that it can blow up artifact lands, whereas Ratchet Bomb can't. So you use this on 0, and it really hammers 8 cast, which is currently the second most played deck in leagues, I believe. All right, that's it. That's the deck. Pretty, well, I wouldn't say straightforward, but we've got a lot of lines we're going to be taking, but what we're trying to achieve is pretty simple, of smashing our opponent's face in with a big guy whilst alleviating pressure and tempoing them out. So before we jump into the league, just hit that like button. It really helps me out. And if you want to subscribe and leave a comment, it all helps for the algorithm. And if you want to help me financially, I have a Patreon that you can find a link to below that also has just a tier if you want to give me like a couple of quid a month to say thanks. And it's got a higher tier if you'd like access to my Green-Black Turbo Depths Primer, which is about 30 pages when I wrote it in Google Docs. So it's quite extensive. And if you're all into that deck, it should be quite useful for you. Alright, enough with that. Let's play some Legacy League with Shadownaut. Alright, we're on the draw for round 1. We don't actually have a a cantrip or a way of hitting a threat. If this... We do have some redraws with dress downs though, but we don't really have any way of sculpting here. We might be able to stifle... This is the sort of hand that I'd rather have on the draw, on the play than on the draw, I think. Because obviously Stifle's impact changes quite drastically. We have removal, we have counter magic a little bit. This is a tough one. I think we're supposed to keep it and see if we can draw some threats down the line. We don't have anything like... Oh my, what is this? Hickory Woodlock. Okay, so this is like mono green Stompy or the peculiar mono green Storm deck that does exist. Am I going to just Wasteland them straight up here? I think so. Say no to Hickory Woodlock. Wooded Foothills. Are they going to pass to us and let us get our pieces? Okay, we're going to play the Underground Sea out. This way we can stifle without worrying about cracking our Delta. And we can save this for Brainstorm. I don't think our opponent playing Hickory Woodlock is going to have much in the way of Wastelands in their deck. So we're not going to tap out of this. We're just going to use this as a Wasteland. Alright. Let's play an island. As much as I'd like to just jam this Dreadnought, our opponent's clearly trying to do stuff with mana, so being able to hit their fetch land might be quite useful here. There's a fetch land. What am I going for here? Alright, we'll just make a Dreadnought, I think. So end of turn, we'll play this dress down. Our opponent should take this opportunity to fetch. They don't know we're playing Wastelands yet, Stifles yet. They might be in for a rude awakening when they find out that we are. Here comes a big boy. And then we'll pass the turn. We've got Daze, Force of Will, and Stifle ready, as well as Snuff Out and Brazen Borrower. Like, we can play our entire hand, just not all at once. So we're pretty reactive to what our opponent does, but we have a 12-12, so they're going to have to do something soon. We're going to clean up, we can get some more information about what our opponent's doing. Are they more on like the green Belcher, not Belcher because they've obviously got lands, but like the green, I think Brian Cook played on... Oh, okay, our opponent's on some weird stuff here. I have no idea what that means. Let's just go to tax. We'll play our land so we have maximum amount of things we can do in our turn. And pass over. I would love to see more of what our opponent's doing. Emergent Ultimatum. So 3, you may cast the other cards. So they get 3 cards and we choose one of them. What are they doing with that? Interesting. I think I'm probably going to want this Force of Negation. Other than that, I don't know. If they're trying to cast Emergent Ultimatum, they're going to be trying to produce a lot of mana sources. So are they going to be using artifact mana? Should I take a punt on that and bring in the Null Rod? Or should we bring in Test of Talents, just another counter spell? I don't hate that. We haven't seen any we haven't seen any creatures yet, so Snuff Out feels less useful. I wouldn't mind having one as like a catch-all. Or maybe it's just better to have a Borrower. Are we supposed to be bringing in another threat like a Dauthi Voidwalker? We don't really want to be tapping out though. Or maybe the Surgical is going to be useful here. We just don't really know. I think we just have to bring in a couple more counter spells and see how this lies. I don't know what our opponent's doing, but I'm very interested. We certainly have lots of counter spells, but we need some mana to work with. We've got a Brainstorm. It's probably going to be doing a bit of heavy lifting, but we have a lot of counter magic here. We'll keep this. One of these things has got to go. I think it's probably the Stifle. I'm relying on this Brainstorm to find stuff, but we do have 2 draw steps before we need to cast it. A Hickory Woodlock again, sure. A Test of Talents. We will hold our fetch land. What is this? A Violent Outburst. Oh, okay, that's what our opponent's doing. I see. We'll let them cascade, I suppose. Now we can see their deck. Emrakul, Shardless Agent, Negation, Tybalt. Oh, Tybalt's Trickery. So we're supposed to counter this. And what are we pitching? I think it's the Force of Negation here, since our opponent can cast the things in our turn. Alright. I'd like to draw a land, please. We did not draw a land. Okay, let's go and get a Watery Grave, pay some life. I think we are brainstorming, because I'd very much like to hit my second land drop. Or we could just try and take our opponent out of the game with Wastelands. I do love doing that to people. Sure. We'll do that. What's more important here, the red mana or the Hickory Woodlot? This is a disappearing land anyway. I think we still have to take it out though. The other option is, so next turn we have the option of holding up Test of Talents and just hitting Tivolt's Trickery. This is just what our opponent revealed to us. I'm just keeping it there so I can have a look and see what's going on. So, do we want to play out this? I think I'm going to hold up the Test of Talents. So we can just get rid of all the Tivolt's Trickeries in our opponent's deck. They can't really do anything. Like, they can hard cast some of these massive spells later on down the line, but that's not a very realistic proposition. We know what's on top of our library. I'm going to crack this now, so if our opponent is playing around Force of Negation, they won't cast it in the end step if they have it. And so we have both of our lands available for upkeep if that's the thing they're doing. Okay, let's Wasteland away. I guess it doesn't really matter which one we hit here. So both of them have got green in. Both the spells have green, so we'll take out their green source. By both the spells, I mean the Shardless Agent and the Violent Outburst. Right, Misty Rainforest. Let's see what they got going on here. A Shardless Agent. We'll let this cascade happen. I'm not seeing any counter magic in here. A Tivolt's Trickery. Let's say no to this with Test of Talents. Alright. We got the scoop. Kind of a weird deck to face, but I'll take it. 1-0, let's go to round 2. Our opening hand here is a little awkward. We've got some interaction there. We've got the Wasteland plus Stifle plan. We don't have enough way of damaging our life total to make Shadow, but we do have a Force of Will we can pitch and some Wasteland. I think we'll keep this. Alright, Leyline of the Void. Good to know. So our opponent is probably one of these mono-black Helm decks. So getting discarded might be a thing that happens here. Wasteland's not looking so hot either. Right, there's a Polluted Delta. City of Traitors. I think we are just going to Wasteland our opponent's mana while they're giving us the opportunity. If they want to play an opposition agent here, we can then crack our Polluted Delta in response. Sure. So we'll crack this in response. And we'll get ourselves a Watery Grave. I don't think we're going to counterspell this. We're more worried about the Helm. If they want to bash us a couple of times, it just means we can drop a Shadow and then start winning in combat. We kind of actively want our opponent to attack us here. Alright, they're not doing that. Interesting. Murktide Regent, that's shut off as well here. Let's play this one out. Yeah, our opponent not attacking there is actually pretty bad news for us. A Dauthi Voidwalker. Is that going to attack us? We kind of need our opponent to attack us. What a weird situation we found ourselves in. A dress down. Okay, so we can make a dress down in our opponent's end step and then crack our fetch land, lose a bit of life, maybe deploy our guy. See if they attack us here. Still no attacks. Fair enough. Let's cast this. I don't think we crack the fetch land now. We crack it in our turn when we have fetch land, when we have Brainstorm potential. Okay. We're cracking this. Getting a Watery Grave, paying some life. We'll go for a Ponder here. Snuff Out looking pretty bad. Dreadnought looking pretty good. So we'll bury this and then have the Borrower and then the Dreadnought, because we kind of need to play the Dreadnought now. Then we will deploy this and then we'll pass the turn. So now we've got a significant creature to race with here. Our opponent doesn't get anything off the Voidwalker because the Leyline is what's exiling them. I imagine we might start getting attacked now. Nope, still no attacks. They could have a Snuff Out here. So this time we're drawing the Brazen Borrower, which is a threat we can deploy if necessary. Fatal Push also gets this, which would be kind of annoying. I'm just going to take it. Don't mind seeing that. Go to end step, and we'll get rid of one of our shadows. There's a Chrome Mox. I think we have to allow the Chrome Mox here. We can bounce the Leyline if we need to, if for some reason our counter magic and stuff doesn't work. If they're going for a Helm here, it's basically going to be a hard counter with our Daze. We can stifle an activation to buy us a turn. Alright, if our opponent's just going to be deploying all their cards, that's fine. So they have a single Thoughtseize here, we beat that. Let's say no to this. They are dead on board. Alright, we got the game. Let's go to sideboard. First up, Snuff Outs don't do anything. Let's get rid of those. Stifles, not the most helpful either. So these are things that we can potentially look at getting rid of. Where does that leave us? Brazen Borrower is useful for sure. And it gets a little tricky. Fatal Push is going to be good here. Sheoldred's Edict is going to be good. Do we want something like... I guess maybe... Force of Negation is non-creature, so it does have some decent targets there. Null Rod can shut down the Helm kill. None of these things here kill their big guy. We can shrink them with the Liliana, but I don't know if that's where I want to be. I suppose maybe we're just playing a couple of Stifles, because they obviously synergize with our Phyrexian Dreadnought, as well as being potentially useful to buy us a turn against an activation of a Helm, or if our opponent sacrifices a Dauthi Voidwalker, we can stifle that. Do we feel okay with 6 enablers and 4 dreadnoughts? I think so. Like, we're a brainstorm deck, we should be able to brainstorm and shuffle things away at the end of the day. Okay, this is a pretty good one. We're probably going to end up pitching the Murktide because we're unlikely to have cards in our graveyard in this matchup. There's the ley line. Sure. I'd like to not be Thoughtseize this turn. We're not being Thoughtseize. We're being Chaliced. Alright, there's a Chromox. If they play a opposition agent, we have to force it here. Okay, what's more important to me? Wastelanding my opponent off their mana, or casting a Ponder? I think I would rather wasteland my opponent here. We have 2 Force of Wills into Dreadnought here, which is not a bad place to be. A Dauthi Voidwalker. How important is this Dauthi Voidwalker? Not at all, I don't think. Our opponent's got 1 card in hand. I think we're just going to ponder here. Try and secure our future. Pretty happy about this Daze. So I'm going to put the Dress down, then the Flooded Strand, then the Daze. So we'll draw the Daze just in case we need more counter spells. And then we have the Flooded Strand next turn. A Dark Ritual. Okay, our opponent's got 1 card in hand. If it's Helm, we just counter it. Easy peasy. Say no to Helm of Obedience. Our opponent is in a situation where they have to decide if they want to attack us or not. I think they should be attacking us. They're not winning this game in another fashion, so... Alright, so we have ourselves a Flooded Strand. We're going to crack it now to dodge. I don't think we're going to get an Underground Sea here. A Watery Grave here. We're doing it now so that our opponent can't... well, I suppose they can't opposition agent anyway, but we're doing our thing anyway, so... Alright. Let's take our little bit of damage. Let's make our thing. That makes our massive thing. Dress down. Drawing a card. It's Ponder. It's a nice one to have. I think we... Do we Thoughtseize first here? I think we need to. I've only got 1 card in hand. We deploy this Dreadnought. And then we cast a cheeky Ponder. Sheoldred's Edict is nice. I don't really want this Thoughtseize, so then we'll put this Polluted Delta. Then the Edict. Draw this. Play this tapped. Alright. So we've got a Force of Will or a Daze, but not both. Our opponent's got 1 card in hand. Sure, we can take this hit. We do race this even if our creature removal doesn't go through. Put Delta we knew about. It's going to attacks. I'm going to flash in an opposition agent, are they? Are we supposed to counterspell this? I think we are. Say no to opposition agent. Okay, they've got 1 more draw to try and find something that answers our Dreadnought. Alright, they didn't have it. A swift win there. I usually find these mono black Helm decks are pretty poor against Death Shadowy type stuff, because Death Shadow just has so many tools to pick apart what people are doing. It's very hard to assemble good A plus B plans against the old Death Shadow decks, really. Okay, let's go to round 3. On the play for round 3, we've got an interesting one. I like it. I'm going to keep this. The question of what land we lead out on is kind of an interesting one. I think we're incentivized to lead out on a fetch land here, because that's more deceptive about what sort of deck we are. Sure, opponent's got going on there. Misty Rainforest, sure. So this turn, I think we're supposed to play our Watery Grave. Reasons for this is we'd rather have a fetch land for Brainstorm purposes than try and conceal a little bit of information. A Wasteland. Okay. Let's try for a dress down here. They might just think this is... Because in Death Shadow you sometimes find 1 or 2 dress downs just as a good piece of interaction. So they might consider this as a similar thing and not an enabler. Okay, we have some options here. I think we're supposed to get this, crack this now, so that when we play our Dreadnought, we can stifle the Misty Rainforest, and then our Daze will always work. Alright, I guess we just pass here. We have a 12-12. That's usually a pretty good place to be. We have a Stifle. They're more likely to expect Stifle now they've seen the Dreadnought, though. It shouldn't be underestimated. If we bounce on our lands with the Daze, it makes our shadow bigger when we get to deploy that. But our opponent is kind of on no lands here, because when they crack this. Alright. Underground Sea. Snuff Out. Can we stop this Snuff Out, realistically? I don't think we can. So we're on a Death Shadow mirror by the looks of it here. Interesting. I think we need to send out for Ponder here. I don't really want more of these dress downs, but I do want this land, so I'll take this land. I don't think we've got another Watery Grave to fetch here. So we'll just get ourselves an Underground Sea, and we'll deploy ourselves a Shadow. We can hold up Stifle. It's only a 2-2, but it can't be snuffed out, which is nice. Right, so maybe Bug Shadow, or just a Tarmogoyf. I love doing this to people. Let's see if it works. Let's bounce our Watery Grave here and make them pay. Oh my god. Did we get the sequence? Oh, we got the sequence. Beautiful. That's like old-fashioned Magic. We used to force people into your Dazes and Stifles like that. Let's play some life here. Cast this Ponder. Would I rather have a Murktide Regent or a Daze here? Considering what our opponent looks like they're doing, I think the Murktide Regent is probably going to be better here. So I think we'll put the Strand, then the Daze, then the Regent. No shuffling the library. We'll go to attacks. This guy's lethal next turn with the dress down as well. Cast everyone's favourite little guy. Get rid of some instants. We'll get rid of an enchantment, just in case I get a Tarmogoyf out. I want it to be small. Right. They don't know that the Shadow's lethal, but it is. We have a Daze on the top as well. We can snuff out a Tarmogoyf. I like our spot here. Very happy with the Daze into Stifle play. Sometimes you get people and it's good. Him to Tourach though. Yep, that gets to happen. We do have lethal damage on board. Alright. I think they were just doing that so they get more information about our deck so they can sideboard better, which is the correct play to do. So our opponent looked like they were like sort of bug mid-rangey type stuff. So I don't mind these pushes and edicts. They seem pretty good. Is our opponent on Uro? That's hard to say. I think the fact that they had a Watery Grave of their own makes me think they're not on Uros. I would like a Dauthi Voidwalker here. I don't think these guys are going to get much done. The Borrower is interesting to me. So we're looking at 4 cards here. Snuff Out is going to be okay here. Stifles and things fine. I quite like Daze on the play is not very good actually. Is it Daze or Force of Will? I don't really like 2 for 1 in myself with Force of Wills and these sorts of matchups though. But Daze is not great. On the play I would definitely board out the Force of Wills, but on the draw I'm not sure. Maybe we'll do a 2-2 split. Seems weird. I don't think we want Tourach here. Do we just want a Planeswalker? Just to sort of grind our way through whatever they're doing? It's just very inefficient. Is the problem. I think I like these more than the Dazes actually on the draw. Let's try this. So I'm expecting our opponent to have the Baleful Strixes. So I'm going to have something to hit with the Lilianas. And we might see some other bits and pieces in there that we can hit. Now on the play, If we go to game 3, then I'll just be bringing in the Dazes. I guess we're going to find out if Liliana's any good, right? This hand is fine. We got cantrips, we got land destruction. Land destruction against them is probably not going to work because they're in green, so they might have access to life from below. If we start wastelanding them as our primary plan, we can get shut down very easily. We could have done the classic wasteland them and surgically extract their land. But I don't think that's good. I think we'll jam ourselves a ponder here. Dress down, Brazen Borrower, and another ponder. I don't think we want any of those right now. I think we're just going to get any order and shuffle. Right, Snuff Out for a Tarmogoyf is nice. A Grief. Yeah, I think it's going to hit us. Are they going to reanimate this or not? We're getting more information about what our opponent's doing at least. Grief is so strong as a card. It just gets you... It gets around things like Spell Pierce so eloquently. And it's very hard to do anything with a Daze against it because, you know, it's the first spell you cast in your turn. So your opponent doesn't get to react. You get to see the hand. Took the Brainstorm. That's interesting. They're casting a Brainstorm, sure. What do they pitch this Grief, actually? I should probably check that. They do have a Baleful Strix in there. Alright. Cracking a Polluted Delta. Underground Sea. And they are reanimating the Grief. Feels like we're playing into a Daze really badly here. I do think we're supposed to counter this though. Because if this comes into play, it's a 2-for-1 anyway, because they get a body and take a card from our hand. And we don't have many ways to actually answer a Grief in our deck. Okay, I think we'll play this. We'll take out... We can't kill black creatures very easily, so I want to take out their Underground Sea. That's my reasoning for that. We have an answer for Tarmogoyf. They know we have an answer for Tarmogoyf. They're a little bit less good. Let's say no to their mana development. I do love Stifle as a card. Yes, we'll pay the life. This makes our opponent think about dress down. They might just assume that we're lowering our life total because we're a Death Shadow deck, but there's a ponder. So now they can't make that 2-drop this turn they were wanting to make last turn. Right, so they're reanimating on the Grief. We're probably losing our Liliana here because we have 2 removal spells that don't touch Grief. Awkward. Yeah, there it goes. Our Liliana can check the Grief relatively well. Come on, deck. A ponder. I'll take that. Murktide Regent. It's pretty good. The other 2 cards are bad. Do we think Murktide Regent is going to be enough here? I honestly don't think they will be. So I'm going to any order and shuffle. Right, if they hit us a couple of times, we can dump a Death Shadow, because we've seen Snuff Out from our opponent before. So we have to expect that they're going to have those in for our blue cards and our Phyrexian Dreadnoughts. So that's not going to work. But if they bash us, it means our Death Shadow that we have now can get deployed and they don't win that race. Right, our opponent's got 3 lands over there. We're going to see that 2-drop they were working on before. Life from below, yeah. So that makes our Stifle shenanigans kind of irrelevant, unfortunately. Maybe we're supposed to have Force of Negation in for this. We'll think about that if we go to game 3. 14, we have a Stifle. Not very exciting, unfortunately. We also have the possibility of blowing this game out with a dress down at some point as well, with a small shadow that then becomes 13 power and just kills them. Because they're pretty low life total. 1 more fetch land and Death Shadow can do one hit kill with a dress down. Alright. A Thoughtseize. Alright, we'll do this. This lowers our life total. I know our opponent's got 2 cards in hand that are lands. Okay, a Fatal Push has to go here. And then we'll deploy our big boy. So this is going to be a 4-4. So if they attack us down to 6, we'll have a 7-7. So that's a 2-turn clock. So we hit them for 7, they hit us down to 3, and then we kill them. So they have to stop attacking. So that's one of the lands we know about there. Another Grief. Okay. Use the Stifle, yeah. Fair enough. It didn't attack, that's fascinating to me. That time you attack, put us to 6, and then you have us dead on board. So I think we have to attack here. This guy comes in. They can chump block or they can trade both of their guys. Interesting. We know they've got a reanimate in hand, right? So we kill both their guys. Let's play our Death Shadow. So they can reanimate our Death Shadow here. Or they can reanimate a Grief. Considering they know what we've got in hand and they know it does nothing, they should probably... I guess it depends if they've got a way of lowering their life total, right? If they can lower their life total enough, they can get the grief. They can get the shadow. Okay, so they're just going for a grief. So they're in the same position they were last time, which was a position that we were winning in. So that's good news for us. What have we got here? Oh, that's quite a nice one. I'll take that. Let's attack. Right, we can deploy a threat here. Our one-off Dauthi Voidwalker. And our opponent will have to chump block the Death Shadow next turn or die. Another grief. Sure. We'll lose this other Snuff Out. Our opponent is on mono griefs. Who didn't attack. Interesting. A Brainstorm. Let me cast this, see if we can massage our life total at all. Liliana and the Veil doesn't really do anything here. Our Wasteland doesn't do anything either, though. I guess we put this on top. And then the Liliana, we just draw that next turn. If we go attacks here, they can attack us for 6 on the backswing. It's 2 turns either way, right? If we attack with just this guy. And the Liliana messes up double blocks for them. I think they were supposed to attack with 1 creature, maybe. So this turn, they swing out with everything. They shouldn't have any reach in their deck, because they're a bug deck. They did not shuffle their library of Ponder. That's a bit worrying. Okay, because they had a Brainstorm. Maybe. If they had a Brainstorm, they would have cast it last turn, so that must have been what they drew off the Ponder. Alright, so they're cracking. They go to 2 here. We have an unblockable lethal threat, and then a big boy that they'll have to respect. So what are we going to see here? A Wasteland. That's not very exciting. Let's float a blue mana to make it look like we have a Stifle. Not sure I wouldn't Stifle the Wasteland in that situation, but... So we know we can't play the top card of our library here. What are we looking at? A Dauthi Voidwalker of their very own. So we can make our Death Shadow big enough to rumble here. So they can block our Dauthi Voidwalker with their Dauthi Voidwalker. That's an interesting choice here. They've got no cards in hand, so I think we're supposed to sacrifice our Dauthi Voidwalker here. And do we get Ponder to cast? Or do we get a Polluted Delta, make our Death Shadow big enough so they can't trade? Yes, we get the Polluted Delta, I think. And play this. So we can give this +3, which will make it so if they double block, we can kill both their griefs. If they don't double block, we don't have to. Interesting. So we get to kill both of their guys here. And then they can attack us for 3, then we have a creature that they can't block because their Dauthi Voidwalker can't block. Now if they've got another creature in hand with their 1 draw, then sure. What's in our exile zone actually? Just a Dauthi Voidwalker, sure, that's fine. A Ponder, that's a good way to start things off. We got a shuffle or not? It's been a really good game, this. They shuffled. It was your 1 random card. Good enough. Like, a lot of creatures they can draw can buy them a turn here. Alright, they didn't have it. Oof. That was a really good game. So, we kind of just did our thing there. The Stifles weren't actually that useful. And the Liliana, I probably shouldn't have brought it in. But I wanted to give it a whirl. And some of the 2-for-1 stuff just feels really bad. And at least Liliana can keep their guys under wraps quite nicely when we don't really have a lot of removal for black creatures. But yeah, we're cruising at 3-0. Let's go to round 4. We're on the play for round 4. We're not going to have a great time versus Wasteland. Are we supposed to keep this one? Double Stifle Wasteland hand. There's definitely a part of me that wants to keep this. Oh, it'll be good content if we can Stifle Wasteland somebody, right? We got triple Stifle here, so let's just do that. We have to keep up our Underground Sea for the Stifle so we can get rid of a Wasteland pointed at us, but we can also mash our opponent's fetch land if that's the thing that happens. They're not going to like that. A basic island. Alright, our entire plan has foiled. Excellent. Doesn't mean that they're not running non-basics, but I think this time we're supposed to have a look what our opponent's working with. We should have deployed our Wasteland first so that we could pay for Daze. That was an error. A Flusterstorm. Sure. Okay, so this is basically a spell pierce, so that wouldn't have worked. A main deck Flusterstorm. That's not something you see every day. Basic Island into Flusterstorm. So our opponent is some sort of combo. They could be like Lash Gordon, or they could be High Tide maybe. That definitely wants to play Flusterstorms. Let's see. A Misty Rainforest. They're going to let us get our Stifle on. Alright, we don't have anything else going on here, so basically our opponent is some kind of combo that's trying to resolve spells on their own turn. I would suggest that's what the Flusterstorm should mean there. I'm not even sure we're supposed to play it, maybe we're just supposed to hold it for Brainstorm, because that mana from it does nothing for us there. Yep, we definitely shouldn't have kept this one. We've got a Brainstorm. I will start with this fetch land. If they crack it, it just means they have to draw these stinky cards they're putting on top. So if my opponent doesn't want the cards, then I want them to have the cards. It doesn't hurt putting cards in our graveyard for Murktide Regent later on either. Okay, the cards were good enough that they're not even cracking the fetch for it. Not great for us. I don't think we're supposed to target the fetch now. They've got so much mana. We're going to try and save these Stifles for something a bit scarier. They shuffle one card from the Brainstorm away. Phyrexian Drifter. I would like to say no to this. Now if they crack a fetch land, I will Stifle it, because they'll be trying to crack it to go and get some interaction. So our opponent is a Sneak and Show deck. We say no to this. I do like how Stifle gives you the ability to operate on a different axis to what a lot of decks can achieve in terms of how you can interact a lot of different permanents. Alright, they have a Force of Will. They're pitching a Show and Tell. Now they're getting this guy. Okay. Now the beginning of each combat. So this is the trigger I can Stifle. Not that that's necessarily going to get us anywhere, but a Murky Boy. I guess we'll play out this Wasteland in case we need to hard cast the Murktide. This game is over, I think. So we're not just going to Stifle the Phyrexian Drifter. If they Brainstorm, then we probably will. Or if they Ponder and leave on top sort of thing. But otherwise, I think we would be better off just Stifling. I guess if they've got an Emrakul or something, we can take the hit and just make some large guys. But they're going to start bashing us now, so we might be able to actually deploy one of our threats soon. But when they get us to like 15 or below, it doesn't take a lot for them to just get us. I think we need to do this so we can actually deploy a threat. Atraxa, Lotus Petals, Sneak Attack. Not a fan of Sneak Attack here. Get rid of that one. That's clearly what they were building towards with the Atraxa. Can we fade another one? Lotus Petal. Does this kill us? It does not. Okay. That's always nice to know. A Daze. We still can't cast our Death Shadow. So we have to pass. The Daze not really going to work in the face of the old Veil of Summer there. Yeah, it's tough. We have drawn very badly, but we kept a hand that we shouldn't have kept really. We wanted to live the dream of stifling someone to oblivion. Alright, let's see where they leave these cards. This is an important one. If they leave two on top. One top, one bottom. So they've drawn the one that they've put on top. So as far as we're aware, they don't know what the top card of the library is. They found a Grizzlebrand. Interesting. Okay, I guess we're going to take 7 this turn. Ponder. Sure, I don't think we're dazing this. The Veil of Summer is certainly interesting. They shuffle their library. They're going to pay 7. They got a lot of life, they might as well. I'll take my Stifle on a Grizzlebrand activation. 1 mana, 7 damage. That'll do. This game is looking quite over. But there you go, they activate it again. Draw 7 cards, up to 11 cards. And they shuffled that Grizzlebrand away with the Ponder as well. Oh, they found a Force of Will. We can't use our Daze because they got 2 mana up. Alright, our opponent drew 14 cards this turn. How are we going to win this one? Spoiler alert, we're probably not going to. Right, so there's the Tropical Island for a Veil of Summer. We're getting a Show and Tell. Right, we'll put in something here. We'll put in a 7/7. Alright, we'll lose our 7/7. Yeah, I think we're done with this one. Okay. So, Snuff Out doesn't target any of their creatures, so that can go. Sheoldred's Edict does. We need our Force of Negation. We want a Test of Talents. Hydroblast has text it too. We could try one of those cheeky surgical extract. Try and like stop the first wave and then extract them. I'm not really sure if that's where we want to be. I don't particularly like Stifle in this matchup, but we are a Dreadnought deck, so then to be the breaks. Brazen Borrower is probably better than a Stifle. It gives us 6, which I probably think is the smallest amount you can run without starting to cut Dreadnoughts. Tourach can mess with the hand, but I don't think that's good enough. I think we're just going to roll like this. Just try and give them a good old-fashioned Death Shadowing. I normally like Death Shadow in these sorts of matchups because you have lots of permission and all sorts. Sure, we'll keep this. You have a Brainstorm on turn 2 to find some more mana. We do technically have a threat. Brazen Borrower is not the best of threats, but double Thoughtseize and Force of Negation against a combo deck is exactly where I want to be. We will be taking the life here because our opponent is a deck that is not going to pressure our life turtle, it's just going to kill us. Let's Thoughtseize them when they have a 6-card hand. Arc and Cruelty, Brainstorm, Red Elemental Blast. Interesting. We're supposed to take the Brainstorm here, I think. It does get a bit awkward with the Veil of Summer being left up there. It does force them to choose between which of these spells they want to cast. I do think we take the Brainstorm though. You can always just Brainstorm in our opponent's turn. And we'll see. We do want to hit the land drops. They're going to play their Scalding Tarn out. They can hold up Veil of Summer for our Thoughtseize or Red Blast for our Brainstorm. It's kind of an awkward position there. Okay, we drew a land, so we didn't actually have to play into that at all. Let's go for a Brainstorm at a turn. Do you want to Red Blast this? They do not. We have found a Stifle though, when they're stuck on mana. I don't mind if I do. I guess we'll put back this Borrower and the Dress Down, and I'll keep the Dress Down. Borrower and the Dress Down, so we'll crack this one, get ourselves Watery Grave, I think. So then we will Thoughtseize our opponent. They will crack for Veil of Summer. We will Stifle that. They will Force of Will, pitching the Hull Breacher. We will Daze the Force of Will here. All rolled up with nowhere to go. So what do we have here? Show and Tell, Red Blast. I suppose we're supposed to take the Show and Tell here. That makes the most sense. Just keep them further away from doing stuff that can win them the game. We're pretty rolled up here. Like, they're unlikely to have the mana to cast Show and Tell and these spells. Alright, so they're playing that now so it doesn't get discarded from their hand. Time to draw a Death Shadow. We did not draw a Death Shadow. Let's cast a Ponder first. Ponder, Force of Will. Like, these are all cards that we quite enjoy in this matchup. I guess we'll bury the island. Take the Ponder. Take the Force of Will. We'll not pay a 2 life just yet. Maybe that's cowardly. Just not sure what red thing we're going to be able to counter this turn looking at our opponent's hand. And this doesn't feel necessarily like it's a Death Shadow game right now. So we've got an island on top. Let's Ponder. Murktide Regent, that is very much a thing. Our opponent does have Hydroblast though. So I think we put the Rainforest back, then the island and the Murktide. And then next turn we'll play the Murktide with Hydroblast back up. I'd rather just keep our threat and just close this game while we're so far ahead. Normally a pretty good thing to do. Shall I miss out? Murky Boy. A giant Murky Boy. So they can Pyroblast this whenever they want. Or Red Elemental Blast even. So it's just a blue permanent. But that will cost them their lowest pearl. And we also have the answer for it. Right, they found an island. Any Ponders over there? No. This isn't going to work out for your opponent. Because they can't cast their Veil of Summer. And we can deploy this so we have hard cast Force of Negation and pitch cast Force of Will. That seems like a fine place to be. This Veil of Summer is not going to get to do its thing. Our opponent does get to be on the play for the final game though. Alright, more interaction. It's basically a hard counter at this point in the old days. Have a Brainstorm. That's not the thing we care about. Have 3 counter spells to fire at whatever you produce. Alright. Final game. Do I want more Stifles because they were good there? Probably not. They're much better on the play than they are on the draw. We have to have Dazes because we need maximum interaction. Our opponent is trying to resolve 3 and 4 mana spells. I think we submit. We can get a little bit done by the Magus of the Moon though. But hopefully our counter magic is going to come clutch there. We got a decent chunk of interaction here. We can also make a big boy pretty easily. So that's always nice. We're going to see some sort of cantrip or they're just fetching around Stifle. Both are perfectly acceptable things. Yep. Looks like they're just fetching around Stifle there. Smart. I think this is the turn we hold up Hydroblast. See if we can stop a sneak attack. Can we play this, save the fetch land? I could just try and play a Phyrexian Dreadnought right now. That does take me off of double Force of Will. I think we're supposed to hold. I would like another blue card first. Also, we're not playing around Daze if we do this, and we know that Sneaky Toe decks play Daze quite regularly. We've also already seen Flusterstorm, which can ruin our Stifle plan, but Vesuvian Drifter. I do not want them to have a Vesuvian Drifter. Vesuvian Drifter is so good, it's just like another payoff. Okay, a dress down. Alright. Quite like the idea of holding up this dress down, and then we can play the dress down end of turn, then play the Dreadnought, because I'd rather have the dress down than the Stifle making our Dreadnought happen. Magus of the Moon. Let's say no to this. Right, that worked. Let's try one of these out, because this also replaces itself as well. It's just way better. Right, this is going to be a good turn for us, I feel it. So we get to Thoughtseize our opponent. What do we have here? Emrakul, Eon's Torn, Red Elemental Blast. So if they have the thing, we're kind of screwed, right? They find a payoff here. I think we can't beat the payoff, so we just need to ignore it, right? We'll take the Red Blast. We'll play this out. We'll cast this. This will only be a 3/3 if we play it. So I don't think we're supposed to play this right now, which is unfortunate. Sure. I don't think we want a 3/3 flyer here. This also makes our opponent consider why we used our Wasteland for the guy. What are we holding up with our blue mana? I guess one of the options was to take the Emrakul maybe, because we can kind of beat the Grizzlebrand. Right, I'm certainly not interested in that one. Let's attack here. Question is it worth deploying our dress down or not? I think we save the dress down for our opponent's turn. It can't be Flusterstormed. We're winning on board, so deploying another threat only interacts if they can kill this Dreadnought, but I don't know if they can. And this way we can dress down into Force of Will if needs be. Alright, we got the match. So we are 4-0 going into a trophy with the old Phyrexian Dreadnought Death Shadow deck. Deck is feeling very good. I'm liking this. This is the sort of matchup that I like to jam Death Shadow into, because you've got hand disruption and counter magic and just big fatties to win the game with. Alright, let's go to the trophy match. Alright, could be a tough one. Our opponent is a Yorion deck for the final. If they're Death and Taxes, that can be slightly challenging for us. So our hand's pretty good though. We got some decent tools. I played against this player before, but I can't remember if they were okay, no, they're not on Death and Taxes unless they're on a splash build. I think we're supposed to lead out on basic island here. Are we supposed to stifle the fetch land? That's a tough call. They didn't play anything else. I'm going to say yes to this. Alright, they went one land, Brainstorm type strategy there. So they got themselves a basic island. Alright. We'll Brainstorm. I want this Thoughtseize. These Dreadnoughts are not doing it for me right now. Let's crack this. Are they going to stifle back? That'd be funny. Pay 2 life. Pay some more life. Let's see what they're working with. Whoa, so they're blue-white taxes. Which of these cards is scariest to me? Swords to Plowshares is a real doozy. Recruit of the Guard. Okay, so they're on an Esper Vial actually, right? Because they got the Underground Sea as well. I think we should be able to clean up the Recruit of the Guard with a Daze, but the Swords to Plowshares is just going to be a real pain. I'm going to take Plow. Plowing a Death Shadow is very rude, because it just means your other shadows aren't on anymore. So this is probably going to be the plains, and there's a sash. Are we supposed to counter this sash? I don't think so. We're not trying to win with Murktide this game. We wouldn't even mind taking a hit from this. Or several, depending on what they do with it. Okay, I think we're on another Brainstorm turn. Yikes. I don't think we want this Underground Sea. Do we want a Stifle? I like the Wasteland because we know our opponent's got an Underground Sea coming up. Let's go for this. So if we crack this, get Watery Grave, pay some life. We can make a 1-1, which doesn't sound great. But they don't have any like things that we have to worry about in terms of power and toughness of our guys. The other option there was to hold up a Dress Down and stop the Recruiter of the Guard that way. But I think bouncing our Watery Grave with the Daze to counter the Recruiter and then wastelanding their sea is a pretty good way of running this game. Here we go. A Stoneforge Mystic though. Oh, that's rude. We can't let this resolve. What are we discarding though? I think it's the Dress Down. A Ponder. That's fine. Our plan is to wasteland this Underground Sea and hold up Daze. Our Death Shadow is actually bigger than the Sash right now, which is good. As you can get a little attack in. Force of Will is not a bad draw. Let's say no to this Underground Sea. And we go to tax. They don't have any white mana available. It's just a 1-1. Right, so our opponent's turn. We have Force of Will or Daze. Alright, I'll crack that Flooded Strand. Get themselves a basic Plains. Another Stoneforge Mystic. Well, we do have another Force of Will, but we're very all in on our Death Shadow now. I really wanted to bounce our Watery Grave so we could pump our Shadow a bit more. Alright, let's find something useful here. That's not very useful. Yeah, I think we're losing this one now. This Recruiter of the Guard can just get any number of horrible things to mess with us. No, they got Plow as well. No, they're just sashing, that's fine. Right, so they've got a Flooded Strand, so they can cast a Venser if they want to and bounce our Death Shadow. They can do that at instant speed. Or they can just keep eating our graveyard. We can't attack into the Lion Sash right now. Or can we? So this is 1, 2, 3. So this will become a 5-5. This can become a 6-6. So we can attack. If they go for the Sash line, then we can grow it above the Sash. They might just Venser bounce it. Are we supposed to go all in on this? I don't think so. I think we need to keep the fetch land for Brainstorm because the Venser's face up here. Sure. I'd much rather have the ability to shuffle away a Brainstorm than getting that tiny extra bit of damage this turn. This is going to be hard. I was kind of hoping they were on, when we saw the island, I thought, oh yes, they're on one of these sort of dirty blue builds that we might be able to beat. But Esper Vial is going to absolutely rinse us, to be honest. Alright, they're not even bothered about the Venser here. They're just going to make their Sash big. If it's bigger than our Shadow, we can't attack into it. So, how many permanents? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, there's loads of food for the Lion Sash here. So they can just hold this back as a brick wall and then start Vensering and messing us around. Yeah, this game is over, I think. Daze is not going to cut it, is it? I think we are... Our opponent has turned the corner on us and we are in the dirt. Yeah, so this turn they do the end of turn Venser bounce. Yeah. We'll just let this go, I think. If they want to hit us, can they just kill us actually? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, they can just kill us actually. We should have dazed this. Not that necessarily I think it matters. Let's see if they see the Lions kill us. I imagine they probably will. They've been pretty sharp with their Lion Sash activations so far. 1, 2. Yeah, they know what they're doing. Okay. It's tough. Very tough matchup, this one. I don't mind these Planeswalkers. Powder Keg's got some text. Tourach's got some real good text here. Dauthi Voidwalker, not so much. Fatal Push and Sheoldred's Edict. And Brazen Borrower is okay. What of our stuff is bad here? I don't like trying to jam Force of Wills into this deck that is just an absolute 2-for-1 machine, so I don't really think that's where I want to be. I like Snuff Out. How useful is our counter magic? Not especially. I do quite like Brazen Borrowers, actually. I wouldn't mind having another one of those if possible. Actually, Powder Keg's super annoying here, right? Because we're trying to win with 1-drops. Powder Keg doesn't feel great in this deck. I guess it's mainly for 0-drops, right? But it's definitely worse than in normal Shadow builds. So, 3 more cuts here. Are we just looking to do the removing some... Oh, Stifle is kind of an interesting one because they have so many activated abilities. But are we just supposed to... I don't think we want Dazes here. Just want removal, right? Just stop them getting their engines online, whether that's Soul Herder or Yori on bounces or whatever. Okay. It's a tough game, but we'll see if we can get one. I'm expecting to lose this match overall. Death Shadow, Brainstorm. Brainstorm is a good card. Okay, our opponent's mulligan to 6. Not that it really matters too much in this matchup. So we'll jam out this Misty Rainforest so we can just start the life loss as soon as possible. We don't want to Brainstorm this turn. If our opponent puts us in a position where we have to, then fair enough. It's going to be Ether Vial. It is an Ether Vial. Do you want to try and Brainstorm to stop this? Maybe. If we can find one of our Dazes, that's not so bad. Alright, these are okay cards though. I don't really want this Wasteland. And put this Ponder on top and draw the Ponder. Okay, that's fine. Okay. So we want to hit land drops here. We know the top card of our library is a Wasteland. Do we want to Ponder? We want to crack this. I think we want to crack this first. And then we'll try out one of these there Ponders. Scalding Tarn is good. Stifle's not so much. But I think we can afford to have one Stifle. And then next turn we can deploy a bunch of threats. And just hope that that works. So we can do Murktide plus Death Shadow. And then follow up with Tourach the turn after. I think that's our strategy. I don't think we want to play double Shadow. We want to use our turn more efficiently mana-wise. Let's crack this. Get one of these. Play out Death Shadow. It's not a massive Murktide, but it's big enough. Next turn we kick Tourach, take 2 cards out of their hand, and put a pro-white guy who's 4/3 into play. That should be quite effective. Not as effective against regular D&T because they have a bunch of blue spells like Venser and stuff that can bounce it. But it should do something, which is all you can ask for, really. A Ponder. And then hopefully we can just use this Stifle to get over the finish line. The other option, I guess, is to hold up the Stifle here, but I suppose we need to see what we're drawing. If we draw a land, so we're guaranteed to do Tourach kick the turn after, then maybe that's what we're doing. But our opponent will win this game if it goes long. Their deck is one of the best at grinding the long game, so we can't dawdle around. There's going to be Plow on the Regent. Ending. Sure. Plow on the Regent would be worst case scenario there. Okay, actually we have this Wasteland, so let's do that. Let's go attacks. A 2-drop. It's Baleful Strix, isn't it? Oh, God. This is really annoying. Sure. I'm going to lose our Strix thing to this. I'm supposed to stifle that Ether Vial activation, aren't I? Yep. It's a tough matchup, and I'm not playing optimally here. I'm thinking if it was a Stoneforge, I'd rather stifle the Stoneforge searching trigger and stuff. But as soon as I passed priority, I knew it was going to be a Baleful Strix. Alright. So I didn't activate it. They didn't put a counter on it this time. They've got a land. Tapping this for 2. Ugh. Say no to this. I'm going to cast a Stoneforge now. A Snapcaster. So just going to Prismatic Ending our guy. That's pretty good. You've got Plow. Oh, sorry, they're just doing the ending, sorry. Yeah. Right. So it's all on you, Tourach. There's a lot of life total to get through. But you're a powerful Magic the Gathering card, and I believe in you. This messes up our opponent's hand quite nicely as well. What are they going to lose here? A Plague Engineer and a Batterskull. That's pretty good. Batterskull is something that absolutely smashes our Tourach. Okay, so this is where our opponent just immediately draws the Caracas and kills us with it, because we never get to do our Tourach thing. Like, they didn't get to have a hand, they just get to beat us down with Snapcaster Mage if that's what happens. Which is a pretty miserable situation, but we'll see. What is this? Blue and a white. Fibblethib. Which one is this? Enters the battlefield, draw a card. If it enters from your library or was cast from your library, draw 2 cards. If it becomes a target spell or ability, shuffle it into the library. This is just going to be drawing them a card. I see. And a Wasteland. That's not going to do anything against us here. So the reason they played this out... Oh, this is good. We could maybe get a blowout here. So double block here. I'm going to double block. That's okay. Let's kill this Snapcaster Mage. I'd rather the Fibblethib was in their graveyard, I think. I think that's better for us. Okay, can we just go all the way with this? Now, they do have a Yorion that they can deploy, which will probably do a good job of racing us. They can deploy it in 2 turns. Well, they didn't up their Vial. Oh, no, they did, but they didn't up it last turn. Okay, so they've got a Yorion. So they might be able to deploy it next turn. Let's Ponder. A Brainstorm, sure. So we attack them to 15. They play a Yorion. We attack them to 11. They attack us to 7. We attack them to 7. They attack us to 3. Yeah, so they win this race. We need something else. That's not the other one, is it? So if they find a land, they get to deploy Yorion, which is what I would describe as bad news for us. That does race us. Can't block our Tourach, but that's not what it's there for. Oh, did they not hit a land? Okay, so this shuts off Murktide Regent, and this puts the race in our favour now, I think. Well, that was big that they missed a land there. And their Brainstorm locked as well, so this is the best thing they could do. Right, so they've got another turn of not doing anything relevant here. Now, obviously, you know, there's various things they could do. Oh, Snuff Out, that's pretty good too. Play this so we can hard cast it, because we're going to be racing soon. Alright, Tourach, bring it on home. 3 more swings to go. So our opponent's going to up their Vial to 4, and then next turn it's going to go to 5. Oh, they left on 3. I mean, they're not casting their Yorion. Interesting. What are they doing over there? I want to see. Oh, what nonsense is this going to be? A Hull Breacher. Okay, we can kill that. A Baleful Strix. This will be the 3rd spell. Oof. This is annoying. So, if we take the Baleful Strix and then Snuff Out, that is 1, 2, 3 spells that have been played. Thoughtseize, Hull Breacher, Snuff Out. So Flusterstorm will counter our spell, which means we have to take out the Flusterstorm here. Let's just kill this now. Oh wait, we made our opponent discard a card as well. Is that relevant here? I guess no, we should have taken the Baleful Strix because then we beat the Hull Breach. Oh yeah, oh god, that was a bit of a pun. If they find a black source for the Baleful Strix, we're in trouble. Oh no. Oh my god. Absolutely punted this game. Yuck. Oh no. Completely forgot about the activate ability on this. Oh, now we don't have anything to do. Oh, then we're just going to get beaten down by this Yorion and it's game over. Oh, we should have just taken the Baleful Strix and attacked into the Hull Breacher. Like, we still... Oh god, another one. Yuck. And they can blink them both with Yorion. Yeah, this is game over. Maybe we're not winning this one anyway, to be honest. But let's just think how that game plays out if we do it the other way around. So we attack in with our... What is this? Mystery Key. When a equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, sacrifice this. If you do, draw 3 cards. Huh. What is this from? What set is that from? I don't know. That commander card, presumably. That's a slightly risky attack, I think. I guess the 3 cards is so potent here. Oh no, it's not risky at all because they're going to blink them with Yorion right now. They've gone to their end step. That's not right. You're supposed to blink it in your main phase. Oh my god. Okay. Black. 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 Liliana, the last hope. You are my last hope. The problem here is... Hold on. If we kill this, they put in the Yorion. They blink both of these out. They have a Yorion that kills us. If we mill into Murktide Regent, we don't die. Ugh. We can't do that because they have a Rest in Peace. Alright. That doesn't work either. We just have to hope our opponent doesn't see this line, which is a very easy and obvious line. Yep. Because the way this is worded is, it's not one of the cards you mill. that you get from your hand. So it's not like Garuda. It's the cards go in your graveyard, then you get any card from your graveyard as long as it's a creature card. Maybe they'll attack my Liliana. Yeah, I think if we take the Baleful Strix there, maybe they don't get the second Baleful Strix for a turn, and that's enough for us to win the game there. We'll see. Oh dear. Let's see if they make a mistake here. It's a trophy match. I may as well give our opponent every opportunity to make a mistake. I'm going to equip Jitte now. Play and equip Jitte now. Interesting. Going for a lot of hoops instead of just swinging for lethal. But I guess they don't know what our 2 cards in hand are. So it might be... Yeah, that's it. The end of that chapter. Alright. So we finished with a 4-1, which is a pretty good record. Let's just think about that last round and how it could have played out differently. So we would have been on 9. We basically couldn't cast any instants or sorcery for the rest of the game if we take the Baleful Strix there, because we know about the Flusterstorm unless we double spell. So we'd be winning with just the Tourach and nothing else. If our opponent would have found that second Baleful Strix before we killed them. So I think we still lose that one, but I think we were wrong to... Obviously, if they block with the Hull Breacher as well, then they get to save themselves some damage, which means they have an additional turn, so they definitely would have drawn the Baleful Strix. So, yeah, I think we misplayed that one slightly, but I don't think it ended up mattering. So, there we go, 4-1. Let's talk about the deck. So, this deck felt really good, but I'm going to caveat that with, that's because Death Shadow is a very good deck. I think Death Shadow is kind of what a lot of Delver players should probably be playing now. I think the deck is very strong. I think I've played it on this channel 3 times now in different variants, and I think I've 4-1'd every time. The elusive trophy is still not here, alas. But I think the deck is very, very solid. Like, we've got really good hand disruption through Thoughtseize. We've got counter spells and Force of Will and Daze. So those things alone give you a reasonable chance of beating combo decks in game 1. And obviously you brought in more stuff from the sideboard. And, you know, the creatures we're winning the game with are pretty large. Now, Phyrexian Dreadnought is an interesting one because it is very bad on its own, just like Death Shadow is. But Death Shadow is a lot easier to manage. It doesn't cost you cards, whereas Phyrexian Dreadnought can. I think stifling to make your Dreadnought happen feels horrible. I don't think that's a play I ever really want to be making. It's 2 cards for a guy that's relatively fragile, right? And they can interact with your Stifle while it's on the stack in a way that means that you lose your guy. Whereas if you dress down and then play a Dreadnought, you've already recouped your card from the dress down. If it resolves, you know it's in there, right? And then you just get to play your Dreadnought. And then it's already got you a card. So even if they do something to remove your Dreadnought, you've already feeling like you're up on the deal, right? Because the dress down cantripped and the Phyrexian Dreadnought takes one of their removal spells. So you've kind of, you know, you're at parity there. You haven't really lost anything. Whereas stifling your Dreadnought and getting it blown out at all is just the worst. So part of me wonders if this deck is supposed to run less Dreadnoughts and maybe less Stifles. Maybe we're supposed to be a dress down Dreadnought deck, and maybe we can have... Let's just move these cards out here. So let's talk about some of the cards I think you can maybe cut. So you could cut these and give yourselves like another Murktide Regent, run some Hymns to Tourach maybe, and all of a sudden, and maybe like some other removal, and I think we're looking better. Because obviously we're running 4 Dreadnoughts, but I don't think we need 4 Dreadnoughts necessarily, because a Dreadnought isn't a full threat card, basically. Whereas something like a Murktide Regent is. Now, Murktide Regent obviously needs you to have stuff in your graveyard. Sure. But I think the power of Murktide Regent is that it's just a single card that does its thing. And being a high CMC means it does dodge some things quite nicely, like fatal pushes and things. I've seen a lot more black decks popping up. Now, obviously, it dies to Snuff Out, but so does Phyrexian Dreadnought, but it doesn't cost you 2 cards. So I do like the Stifles, though, as a card. That's how I like to play Magic sometimes. Excuse me. But I don't think it's actually a very strong card, right? There are certainly situations where it's good, but we're not necessarily taking advantage of the tempo that often. It's not like we're playing a 1-mana 3-power guy and we just need to turn it sideways a few times and win the game. We kind of need to interact with our opponent, then we deploy a threat, then we finish them off with like the last remnants of our interaction. That's kind of what the Death Shadow wants to do, which is different to Delver, which is play your threat, keep your opponent off balance until that threat wins them the game. So there is a slightly different play pattern, even though sometimes it can end up being similar. So I think Dreadnought is a little bit of a liability, so I would be inclined to maybe trim these back. And Death Shadow decks, if you don't have the Wasteland, Urza Saga is very good against you. So having these 4 dress downs is actually pretty good. It kind of shores up a thing that can give you a problem. Just having 8 cards of insulation against Urza Saga decks feels pretty nice. And dress down has a lot of useful utility. Maybe we don't need to have the full set of Dreadnoughts. And obviously dress down on Death Shadow can just be a random, oops, you died sort of thing. So I quite like that. I would like some removal main deck that maybe hits things that aren't black. I know Brazen Borrower exists and we've got counter spells, but I wouldn't mind possibly tweaking these slots around. That would be something I reckon. The Test of Talents was not something that really came out that much, but we did board it in twice and we saw it once and it was good. So I don't mind that. Is it better than having more Force of Negation? I'd probably argue no, but I can see why it's in the deck and it seems fine. Like, that's part of the problem, right? Death Shadow is a deck that a lot of people have been playing for a while and tweaking. And we're doing something within that shell but tweaking it. And the idea is, what do we gain from tweaking it versus, you know, there's several builds of Death Shadow, right? You've got the Baleful Strix build and you've got the Scam build with the Grief Reanimate package. Those are sort of the 2 main builds of Death Shadow right now. And what do we get from the Phyrexian Dreadnought build? Well, we get a big trampley threat, which is quite nice. And it's a threat that doesn't use our graveyard and doesn't care about our life total. So all of our threats in this build are operating on slightly different axes in terms of how we get them into play, because they're all undercosted big creatures, right? But they all get undercosted in different ways. One of them requires you to have another card, one of them requires you to have a bunch in the graveyard, and one of them requires you to have a low life total. So the fact that they're sort of disparate in how they work is kind of interesting to me. I'd also be interested to play a Death Shadow deck with Delvers in, like I used to years ago when that was a thing. That felt quite good back in the day. So maybe there's still some room to innovate in the Death Shadow realms. I think the Stifle does make this deck a little bit different, but Stifle, we are not leveraging it as much as we could because we don't have like a guaranteed turn 1 play or even the possibility of a turn 1 play that can attack. The earliest creature we can make is turn 2, and that's a Dreadnought with a Stifle. That's 2 cards to make a threat on turn 2, and usually the first threat you play is the one that's going to soak up removal. We don't want to spend 2 cards on that. So Stifle is good for the Dreadnought plan, but it's not. But the Dreadnought plan I don't think is that good, and I also think the rest of the deck isn't well suited to playing Stifle. So there's 2 options there. Either go more into the Stifle realm, you know, try and get some early threats in instead. Or you cut out the Stifles and then we just play some more traditionally good cards like your Hymns and things like that to just really sort of crunch through opponents. Cyber-wise, I'm not sure that we should be running Liliana over Plague Engineer, but you know, it's a cool and interesting card, so that's fair enough. The Voidwalker is pretty cool. The Null Rod, like all these things, all the cards make sense to me. I'm not sure if they're necessarily the best. Like, I think this should be the Plague Engineer. I think this should be a Force of Negation. And part of me does kind of want another Hydroblast because of all the Magus of the Moons and things running around these days. But I think it's fine. Also, something about this deck that I didn't mention is that because we don't have Hymn to Tourach in our deck, our mana base is actually a lot better. This basic island doesn't jam us up, whereas if you're playing Hymn to Tourach, it really can jam you up. So maybe that's another argument for not going down the Hymn to Tourach route and maybe playing something else. Maybe it is the Stifles and that's the build you're supposed to go. I'm not sure. But we 4-1 today. The deck felt pretty good. and I've rambled on about it for a while. I've got another Death Shadow deck that's quite different from this. Sorry, not Death Shadow, another Phyrexian Dreadnought deck in the queue that I'm going to play later on. So this isn't the last you've seen of Phyrexian Dreadnought. It's going to take me a lot to convince me that Phyrexian Dreadnought is where you want to be in Legacy, but we certainly did smash and face with it today, and it was like kicking it old school like back in the day when I first started playing Legacy. So can't fault that. I hope you enjoyed this one. Good results tend to make for more watch videos, so that's hopefully good. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and why not join my Patreon. Alright, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.